Welcome to the Fellowship of Christian Gods. This week we are going to be reading from Proverbs chapter 9. So before we start reading, I will open us in a little prayer. Before that, I'm going to mute everyone so there's no background sounds. Oh, no, they muted themselves. Good. All right. So, blessed are you, the Lord, who has sanctified us by your commandments and commanded us concerning the words of the Torah. Make pleasant, therefore, we beseech you, Lord our God, the words of your Torah in our mouth, and in the mouth of your people, the house of Israel, so that we may all learn your Torah, and that we and our offspring may be among them who know your name. Blessed are you, Lord, King of the universe, who has chosen us from all peoples and given us your Torah. So, as we are about to hear from the Bible, may our ears, our eyes, our mouth, and our hearts be open to receiving the word. Right. So, Book of Proverbs, chapter 9. Wisdom invites all to her feast. Folly calls another way. Wisdom hath built herself a house. She hath hewn her out of 7 pillars. She hath slain her victims, mingled her wine, and set forth her table. She hath sent her maids to invite to the tower and to the walls of the city. Whosoever is a little one, let him come to me. And to the unwise she said, Come, eat my bread, and drink the wine which I have mingled for you. Forsake childishness, and live, and walk by the ways of prudence. He that teacheth a scorner doth an injury to himself, and he that rebuketh a wicked man getteth himself a blot. Rebuke not a scorner, lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee. Give an occasion to a wise man, and wisdom shall be added to him. Teach a just man, and he shall make haste to receive it. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is prudence. For by me shall thy days be multiplied, and years of life shall be added to thee. If thou be wise, thou shalt be so to thyself, and if a scorner, thou alone shalt bear the evil. A foolish woman, and clamorous, and full of allurements, and knowing nothing at all, sat at the door of her house, upon a seat in a high place of the city, to call them that pass by the way, and go on their journey. He that is a little one, let him turn to me. And to the foolish she said, Stolen waters are sweeter, and hidden bread is more pleasant. And he did not know that giants are there, and that her guests are in the depths of hell, or Sheol. So that's the reading. So before I give my thoughts on it, do any of you guys have thoughts or questions or comments about what we just read? No? Okay. So, this is one of those ones where I really wish that Josh would be here because it has some esoteric symbolism in it. Although I also know esoteric symbolism, I think Josh pays more attention to those kind of things. So I think he would have a lot to say on it, So, of course, we left off in the previous weeks by it telling us about how wonderful the wisdom of God is. And it's addressing wisdom as a her, because in Hebrew wisdom is always feminine, and is comparing wisdom to a wife which we have loved since our youth, and it's comparing her to foreign women, which is like promiscuous, women, where the wisdom of foreign faiths, they might seem sweet and beautiful like the honeycomb, but really they're bitter and dangerous and deceitful, and then that was chapters 1 through 7, and chapter 8 was just talking about how absolutely wonderful wisdom is, wisdom of God. And now this one, as I said, it's getting a bit esoteric. Wisdom hath built herself a house. She hath hewn her out 7 pillars. That's interesting, isn't it? Now, 7, of course, in Hebrew is the number for completion or the number for wholeness. So that means the structure of the house of God's wisdom is completely solid, and also large, vast, infinite, all consuming. So that's what 7 pillars would mean. She hath slain her victims, mingled her wine, and set forth her table. So there's no one that can justly oppose God's wisdom. And mingled her wine and set forth her table. So God's wisdom is fully at rest. It is complete. It is solid. And then, of course, mingled her wine and set forth her table. That's also an allusion to Jesus, to Yeshua, and to the Eucharist, to the communion that Christians host, because of course the communion wine traditionally is mixed with water, so mingled wine, and it's set before on a table, the altar. So that's a great foreshadowing to that. She hath sent her maids to invite to the tower. Well, I know that the temple in Jerusalem, there was a tower where the maidens would sew together the priestly garments and the temple veil. And so it's probably an allusion to that. And to the walls of the city. Yeah, that's talking about Jerusalem, definitely. Whosoever's little one, let him come to me. And to the unwise, she said, come eat my bread and drink the wine which I have mingled for you. See, again, that's, the Eucharist. Oh, also, something I forgot to touch upon last week is, so the church is traditionally also referred to as a her. So it's also the wisdom of the church, So I wanted to touch upon that too. So, the church, she said, come eat my bread and drink the wine which I've mingled for you. That's definitely the Eucharist, communion. Forsake childishness and live and walk by the ways of prudence. So, of course, the ways of prudence is God's teaching, his Torah, his commandments, his, he that teacheth a scorner doth an injury to himself. He that rebuke a wicked man getteth himself a blot. That reminds me of the New Testament passages about, do not cast pearls before swine and dogs because they will rind you. The same thing. So that's a part where the New Testament is alluding to this, and this is alluding to the future writings of the New Testament. Rebuke not a scorner, lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee. Don't we all know that's so true, right? If you tell a rotten person that they're mistaken. They'll bite you, they'll rind you. But if you correct a person who is mature, they'll say thank you, and so that's absolutely true, you know. Give an occasion to a wise man, and wisdom shall be added to him. Teach a just man, he shall make haste to receive it. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is prudence. So, if you choose to follow God and choose prudence, you'll start to become more and more wise and have more and more knowledge. Of course, that's so absolutely true, Uh, For by me shall thy days be multiplied, and the years of life shall be added to thee. That, of course, we see all throughout the Bible. It keeps on saying, if you follow my commandments, I'll multiply your days and give you long life. So that's just restating God's promise throughout all of his Torah, of his teachings, of his instruction. If thou a scorner, thou alone shalt bear the evil. That of course touches upon the fact that God doesn't send us to hell. We send ourselves in our own actions by our own behavior, which of course the first 7 chapters of this also stated. A foolish woman, a clamorous and full of allurements, and knowing nothing at all. That's of course talking about the foreign wisdom again. Sat at the door of her house on a seat in a high place of the city, to call them that pass by the way and go on their journey. That, of course, is talking about how alluring false teachings can be. How like, oh yeah, that says I don't have to follow this stuff. Oh, good, I'll do that. But it's dangerous and it's harmful and it's hurtful. So that's what that's talking about there, on how we're walking on the way of God, and yet these false teachings, they try to allure us away from God and his love. He that is a little one, let him turn to me. And to the fool she said, stolen waters are sweeter, and hand bread is more pleasant. And isn't that just like false teachings to say, oh, but when you do wrong, when you do bad things, it makes life more enjoyable. You sometimes hear people talk, that's a more hedonistic mindset there. But the thing is that it's not. Doing bad stuff does not actually make life more enjoyable. It leads you to desolation and sorrow. And he did not know that giants are there, and that her guests are in the depths of Sheol. So giants, in Hebrew, you have Nephilim, which does not actually mean like big monstrous creatures. That's not what is meant by giants. Giants normally means legendary things, mean men of renown. But I think in this instance, it's talking about like people who word gets out about them, not necessarily good word either. So, so those who engage in sin and stuff like that, who live wicked lives, they do kind of become legends, don't they? Hey, this rock star, he did all these drugs and did all these women, all stuff, but it's not necessarily good stuff. Hey, this guy, he slept with 100 women. That's not necessarily a good thing. Yeah, he's kind of a giant. He's kind of a legend. So that is, that, and her guests are in the depths of Sheol, or in hell. So it leads to death, following false wisdom. So that is my take on this passage. I know I spoke a bit longer on than what I usually do, and that's just because there was so much esoteric stuff in here, so many stuff that isn't necessarily clear, you know. So I felt that it needed that time to really delve deep into it line by line. So now that I've done that, again, if anyone else has any other comments they have about ways that they took the text and insights that they got on, or questions about the text that I haven't answered, I tried to answer all of it, but but yeah. So anyone who wishes, you know, yeah, speak up. No? All right. Well, then, if no one's going to comment, then we will be ending the recording. So, again, I hope that through this reading, that that our ears, our eyes, our mind, and our heart have been open to receive it, so that we may better follow God's instruction and may become, you know, more close in our walk with our Messiah and Savior, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ. And may God bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you, and may he grant you peace. Amen. You can stop the recording now, Arisa.
All right, recording ending now.